This is the Lost Man podcast, where we embrace the challenges and triumphs of being a modern man in the middle years. Join us as we explore the rugged path of growing older, wiser and bolder in a world that's constantly changing. I'm your host John.
And I'm Matt, and together we'll navigate this uncharted territory with grit, humour and a whole lot of heart.
Good afternoon, Lost Man podcasters, lost people of the world, and welcome to our latest instalment of the Lost Man podcast. If I'm not mistaken, MB, we are on 00012, which is quite the achievement. We are really rolling through these now, and
12 episodes, four consecutive. Oh, sorry, I don't know my months. 3 consecutive months.
Yeah,
4 episodes per month.
Super consistent, which is the whole point of this podcast.
Except the odd one we missed.
But
super consistent.
1,000,000% consistent, apart from a couple of little chinks in the armor.
Yeah,
and
100% complete most of the time.
100% complete 90% of the time. Yeah, exactly that. And on this week's episode, we are going to be talking about the joys of pet ownership. And I think that the majority of this discussion will be around dog ownership because we both own dogs. I think, me in particular grew up with dogs, but we can talk a little bit more about, for example, I had a couple of hamsters growing up, I had a couple of gerbils, and we can delve into the wonders.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't want to get into the dog-cat debate.
No.
But
because dogs are better than cats, that's why.
Because dogs are better than cats. But what I would say is cats can offer some of the positive mental health elements that a dog can offer, but can't offer all the joys of kind of pet ownership.
No,
that
they
a dog
definitely
can.
And
No.
if you were to die and be in your house, the cat would eat your body within 24 hours without
Whereas
any
the dog,
the dog would at least
whereas
wait
the
until it
dog,
was starving.
Yeah. No, the dog wouldn't eat you, mate. The dog would mourn you. The dog would mourn you.
I only know this because I heard it recently that it would actually, when it gets to a point where it's starving, then all bets are off. So
Fine.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. I think that we just came up with the wonderful catchphrase, which is that a dog is a lost man's best friend, and there's nothing more true. Now, before we do that, we will just spend a little bit of time, as we do every episode, just checking in with each other. So in order to do that, I need to ask you a very important question, which is, Matt, how's your week been?
How's the week been? Very quickly, because I do want to get into this because I'm currently babysitting little man, and who knows when he'll wake up. So we're just slotting these in.
Yeah.
The commitment is there, though. We want them. So. We want to do them. The baby might have other ideas.
Yeah.
So very quickly, week has been good. Positive movements on the van front. Mainly being finished another, or just about to finish another video. We are fully rust coated and the floor is all sorted out.
Lovely.
And then also paid a really good little visit to a fabricator who makes fold out seats.
Sweet.
So ordered the fold out seat. He's a proper good bloke, and he's done a few little custom elements on it for us. So we put like custom height on it, so it brings it up to the same level as the driver's seat. So when it's all made into a bed, it'll all be the same level. It's got isofix points for little man, all that kind of stuff. And best of all was he's only in Chesterfield, which from us isn't very far at all. He's going to fit it. Went to see him, picked all the fabrics. I'm not going to go through the specifics because it's a nice little surprise if you watch the video. Yeah, so positive week from that front. Um, I'm not gonna delve into uh my poor wife's. She's having a bit of a rough week
Yeah.
this week.
Hmm.
Actually linked to pet ownership,
It is
and
linked
I
to her
suppose we'll get
ownership.
onto that at the end. So just been kind of supporting her. But all in all, bit of a grinder at the old death zone. But apart from that, pretty good week. You, Johnny?
Well, yeah, good, and I'll come on to me in a minute. But there's one key thing that you also did just yesterday, which was
I don't know.
spending money other country.
Uh, oh, yeah, we had flights for Canada from COVID,
Hmm.
and because of COVID, we then cancelled them, and then because of smashing my body up through mountain biking, we then had them in a travel bank. But we've finally decided to book some flights for about 6 weeks' time or whenever it is. So we're heading over to Canada, heading over to the Powder Highway, they call it.
Nice.
Going to do a little bit of snowboarding and, well, hopefully do a little bit of snowboarding, see how the old body holds up, but also just have a good old explore. Um, yeah, very exciting. Bucket list trip coming up.
Fantastic news, mate. Yeah, that'll be superb. A lovely little family trip exploring
Yeah,
the wondrous Canada.
yeah, can't wait. It's you know, I think it will be a chilled one in terms of snowboarding and skiing this year, being young, but um, but I think we hope to go back again and just exploring and getting to know it as a country.
Very cool, mate.
What do they call that
Yeah,
cheesy
yeah,
chips?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you've
Pout.
got poutine, haven't you? Yeah,
Yeah, it is poutine. It's poutine.
poutine. That's right. Yeah, they used to
Poutine.
do it in a like an eatery, just literally not even 500 meters from my house. Well, probably
Yeah,
more
it's
than
mega.
500 meters.
Cheese and chips and gravy, basically.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, all that
Um,
stuff, that après food is great. Like, if you go to the Alps, like raclette is a big deal
oh, it's
out
so
there.
cheesy though. It's so
Man,
cheesy. I
it
mean, it
is
is
on
literally
another
just
level of
cheese. So,
cheese. Yeah, I discovered that on the Mont Blanc trip, the very, very serious situation that is raclette.
mm,
So yeah,
50 million calories.
yeah, 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 yeah. But luckily, you burn about 50 million on these snowboard trips. Well, that'll be ace, mate. Nice work.
And it was
Uh,
partially free. So, not free, but when you've paid for it 3 years ago, you think it feels more free.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The money's gone, hasn't it? Yeah, the
Yeah.
mental money has disappeared. Um, Wicked stuff. Well, my week has been good. Is there anything that stands out this week? Oh, like I was saying to you before, I kind of turned a page in Johnny's asexual dating scenario uh, just yesterday, and it was a friend of mine, Jacko, who basically taught me into doing this. And it was reaching out to an old love interest from yesteryear, and that was it really. Is chancing my arm. Is somebody that I knew when I used to work. I was about 21, 22, or something like that. And I don't know if you ever had these people that you sort of mates with, fancy them, haven't got the balls to do anything about it. So what you
Well,
do
yeah,
is
there's,
go on.
I think everyone's had those situations where maybe either someone's been in a relationship or someone's just got out of one, so they're not interested in getting into one. And like it's like when you have great chemistry, but the stars don't quite align.
Well, what happened was, I'll touch on it very briefly, was we worked together, and it was like it was in the call center days of British Gas, and we just sat opposite each other and had a really nice time and became good friends. And I'll never forget that. I think something along the lines of I had I was off work ill, and she had missed the last episode of Friends or something like that. So I went and bought the DVD and like braved the buses from Fallowfield to Stockport, hanging out, and sort of delivered this present in a hope that it would do something. And obviously, probably just further ingrained my friend zoneness. But what happened was I I was talking to my mate the other night. We went out, and I was saying, because he was asking me about love interests, and I was saying, oh, just too busy with other stuff. And then he said, what about this person? And then I started talking about being in high school and really fancying this girl called Hannah. And in year 8 or something like that, me and my mate James went, like you do when you're that age, went to a graveyard to hang around with Hannah, this girl, and this
It's
girl
so
called,
good. It is true. You do hang around in some weird
yeah.
places when you're. Where's somewhere where we can go and drink a load of
Well, that's
cheap
right, isn't it?
vodka
You just
that
want
we've
somewhere, yeah.
bought with my brother's ID?
And 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 anyway, cut a long story short, we'd gone and sat on this graveyard, the four of us, and James had gone round the corner with Leanne and was getting with her, and I just didn't have the nuts to say anything to Hannah. And then on the last day of high school, I said to her, and she was like everybody fancied her. She was the fittest girl in high school. And I said to her on the last day of high school, when we were all signing our shirts, I was like, that day on the graveyard, I really wanted to say something to you. If I had have done, would you have said yes? And she was like, yeah, like I was waiting for you to say something. Anyway, so I was telling him that
What did you
story.
want to say? Can I, can
Well,
we
will you go
can
with me or something
can
like that?
we
Which was yeah, which was the term, wasn't it? Will you
can
go with
I?
me? And
Oh right, was that what was said? Will you go
that
with me?
Well, that was it, yeah. And will you go with me was like if you're going with somebody, that was like kissing them in our school's dialect. Anyway, so I was telling him that story, and he said, "Well, why don't you?" Because the kid, this girl, I shouldn't say her name, years and years and years ago, got with somebody, and and then has been with him ever since, relatively recently. So this guy was like, "Oh, so and so, they broke up about a year ago or something like that." And he said, "Why don't you do it?" And you know me, he sort of like lit this impulsive fire in me, and then I was like, "Yeah, that's a really good idea." Anyway, so yeah, the message got sent.
Oh,
The
you
reply,
sent it.
yeah.
So you sent it.
I sent it, yeah.
Any response?
And the reply is yet to come in. But
Never mind, eh, mate.
never mind,
It's one
life
of them,
goes
isn't it?
on. And
You don't know until you try.
well, I'll tell you what, mate. Yeah, there's plenty of lads who wouldn't have had the balls to not say anything 20 years
Do,
ago, wait 20 years, and then send a Facebook message. So I feel pretty proud of myself for that.
do you
Um,
know? Just going back to when you were at the graveyard,
yeah,
wishing you had the bollocks to pluck up the courage and say or do something. Mate, I remember so many situations where you'd be there and like you'd be like, "Is this a moment
yeah,
where I
yeah,
should just kiss you?"
yeah,
And you'd seen loads like our era of growing up was full of great teen comedies and
yeah,
films where people just like it's same situation, they just go in for it and it all works out well.
yeah,
Mate, I were the same every time, just like did
yeah.
not have the balls to you
No, I
know
know. There was, and it was
put
when
the
you look
moves
back at
on.
it. When you look back at it, a lot of it was so obvious. Like there was this girl who used to come round to my house when I lived with my mum, and she'd just come round like Friday, Saturday night, and we'd just lie on my bed in arm watching TV, and then she'd just get up and go home, and then and it's like, what? nobody said anything. You know what I mean? Because you're just so young, aren't you? And you can't process it.
You're
And
just both waiting for the other person to do it,
that's right,
and
of course.
but
And with
also
this,
you don't know. You're like, why are they hanging out? Are you friend zoned? Are you
mate,
just a pal?
it was so funny, that one in particular, because he used to come round and we'd just lie on the bed and watch TV. And I used to have a Cypress Hill poster on my wall, right? And I used to lie there, and every time I used to feel she'd be lay on me, and then she'd like pull her leg up over mine, and I'd be like, oh my fucking, you know what it's like when you're that age. I'd be like,
Laid
no,
there with a
don't do
fucking.
it, don't do it. So I just stare at this Cypress Hill poster, like, look at the Cypress Hill poster, look at the Cypress Hill poster, and convince myself not to get a boner. Um, and this, if you didn't already know, is what the Lost Man podcast is all about. The
Chanting to yourself stuff like
Yeah,
the Queen Mother naked, the Queen
yeah,
Mother
yeah, yeah,
naked,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Queen
yeah,
Mother
yeah,
naked,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Queen Mother
yeah.
naked, just so you didn't get a
What was that
stiffy.
thing that Ali G used to say? He's got Manan on the bog, Manan on the bog, Manan on the bog. Anyway, so that happened this week, and also
Nice,
another
good
big thing.
manoeuvres.
Another big thing that's happened this week for both of us is this is not with this episode, but with the last episode on money, we'll be officially posting that on social media to see what the world thinks of our telephone conversations that we now record, call a podcast. So interesting times, man.
Um, go similar to that, and similar to you sending that text message. It's just about having a crack, isn't it? Like 50% of the battle with anything in life is just being like, you know what? I'm just going to do it.
100%, mate.
So
And I
like
tell you what,
with the poddy, with
yeah,
messaging that bird, like there is no fallout or negative from just starting or just by doing stuff.
you've got nothing to lose. And I've got a pretty good success rate of doing exactly that. When I say success rate, doesn't always end in the best fashion. And but yeah, but as I say, with reaching out to that person, yeah, it's just all fun and games. There's no as my mate was saying, there's absolutely nothing to lose. It's just
Nothing to
annoying
lose,
because
mate.
you want to speak to somebody in person rather than sending a message on Facebook, but there's no way of doing
Yeah,
that.
but mate,
Anyway,
we live in a
so
world where technology is just so much easier to do all those things.
100%.
And
And
also be fucking weird if you just turned up at that girl's house and
oh
was
God,
like,
well,
um,
there's no way that that situation can play out, is there? Because you'd have to find out where that person's going to be, or like bump into them
you're just
somewhere.
entering into stalker territory immediately.
You can't. I mean, you can't do it. It's as simple as
No,
that, and nor would you
no,
want to. And then what else? There's nothing else. Um, but anyway, Johnny Super Segways. Who needs women when man's got pets?
man's
And
got pets.
that is the subject of today's poddy. And I think both you and I have got beautiful pets in our lives. And I personally grew up with pets. I don't think you did grow up with pets, did you?
We had a cat. We had
I was
a,
much for you.
a we had a cat called Willow who was I think some kind of like tortoiseshell. I want to say Canadian tortoiseshell, but that might have been my brother's snake.
Right.
But she was a beast, and she was like a big cat, and she used to launch herself out of trees, um, and take birds out of the air, mate. Like
Amazing.
I remember her jumping out, mate, absolute beast, and she just disappeared. We think she got shot because she would look like a fox, like color
Right.
wise, she almost looked like a fox. Um, but I would just say zero affection given.
Yep.
She's a cat. Zero love. Just the only affection she's giving is the dead rabbit underneath the orange chair in our old sitting room when I was about 5 years old. That's what I remember.
They are savage hunters, and they're pretty
Savage,
impressive.
mate.
Yeah, from that point.
Um, Other pets, I had I had two gerbil. I had a hamster called Snowy, who was a
Yeah,
vicious little bastard. He used to bite my finger. Or could not tame him. Could not
no,
tame him.
no. What kind of hamster was
And
it? Was it a little
a
one of
white
those
one.
little Russian ones?
Vicious, whatever it was.
Yeah,
And then I had two gerbils called Baz and Taz,
nice.
and they were okay. They were a bit more less bitey, but not like they didn't love being handled. Like in my head, they're like, "Oh yeah, it will live on my shoulder,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and obviously they didn't. They lived in an old fish tank that my brother had for when he had snakes,
yeah.
and it was huge, like probably 1.8 meters long.
Mm.
And it was full of sawdust and dirt and stuff. And they dug all like that. I think that's how you're supposed to keep it. They basically dug all tunnels through it, and you could see
That's
them all. It
cool.
was sick. Yeah, yeah, sick.
What? So you like
Um,
piled the sawdust in, so it was like
yeah, yeah, full,
packed of
full of,
sawdust.
full of stuff, twigs, everything. And then my brother had a couple of snakes. We had a couple of cats. We never had man's best friend,
A
a
lost
dog.
man's best friend, isn't that a
What
shame?
what what about before we go on to current pettage? What about you growing up? Did you have any pets or?
We had a few pets growing up, and so I can remember we used to live on a really busy main road, and what was bad about that was that a couple of the dogs that we had growing up actually came to a pretty, one of them I remember, a golden retriever called Warner, got hit by a lorry outside, and I can still picture it now in my head, the scene of Warner sort of basically just taking his last breaths on the drive. It was
Oh,
gnarly. Um,
mm,
but we had him, and then we had a beagle called Sally. But if you know anything about beagles, beagles are very, she just used to run away the whole time. Like, I mean,
mm.
all the time, to the point where
Beagles are those hunting dogs, aren't they?
they are.
Aren't
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very nose
Yeah,
driven.
very nose driven and very sort of like
Mm,
so they're scent hounds, and they're also very into, very, I've forgotten what the term is now. Um but when they're very basically just, will chase rodents, they go for
yeah,
squirrels,
yeah, yeah,
go for
yeah.
rats.
They'll get well. They get a smell, and that's it. They're off.
Yeah. So, but I've got, as part of the dog board inside Hustle, I have a little regular called Jack. He'll be here in a couple of weeks, actually. In fact, he's coming for a couple of weeks at the end of February, and he's lovely. But Sally was just a pain in the ass. And
Mm.
then we had the main family dog, which was a chocolate Labrador called Cadbury, and um, he also got hit by a car on the front of the thing, but survived, and he always had a scar on his head. And yeah, they're just as a kid, I don't think you realize how important they are. It's different when you actually own one yourself. But we had a couple,
Mm.
yeah, so we had that, those dogs right up until I left home. Cadbury was still around. We also had a cat called Twiggy, and I was quite a hyper child, and Twiggy hated me. And she was sneaky about it. She would wait like in the dining room, she would like hide on a chair, and I'd just walk past and just get clawed from nowhere. Just like, yeah,
Sneak attack.
sneak attack, or like she'd drop down off a bunk bed onto me or something like that and just claw me and then run away. Uh, yeah, but we also had a couple of hamsters. I had a little hamster called Rizzo, and then I had a couple of gerbils as well. But I always wanted a snake, and I think that's a very cool pet. And tell me
Ah,
about Rob's.
they don't do anything, mate.
Right.
They don't do all of these pets don't do anything.
They are badass though.
Yeah, pretty badass. I remember once, and my brother will remember this. Number one superfan. Hi,
Yeah,
Rob.
I'm a fan. All right, Rob.
Secondary superfan, George. Hi,
Yeah.
George.
All right, George.
But I had a plastic snake and I put it on the floor, and Rob came in and the room was dark and he stood on it and he thought he'd killed his snake,
Oh
and I
God.
was in absolute hysterics.
Yeah.
I just didn't think there was anything funnier
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he hadn't. It was just a rubber snake,
Yeah.
but he'd really thought it was a goner.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of his snake.
What kind of snake was it? Tortoise shell is right for a cat, so it's not that. Was it a what was it?
It was like a water snake. It was like it had a bit of water in its cage.
What
I
what
don't
color
know.
was it?
It was probably 67 centimeters. He used to feed it fish, I think. I don't think he fed it mice. It wasn't one of those.
Hmm.
Imagine that. Imagine what's that film where he's feeding mice? Is
It's
like
Freddy Got Fingered, and it's and it reminds me of I used to have a mate called
the
Craig Callie, and I'll never forget being at an afters at his house in a very weird place, and him feeding this is python frozen mice, and just being like, you know what it's like in those moments where you're just like, what is going on?
yeah.
Um,
What am I doing here?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Um, but
but
go on.
I think there's no question about what the best pet on the planet is. I can remember. I think it was a book called. There's a book called *Sapiens* by a guy called Noel Havari. I think that's how
Yeah.
you pronounce his name. It's a really interesting book, and there's two of them. There's *Sapiens* and then *Homo Deus*, and he's probably written other books as well. But they're the
I
two that
feel
I.
like I've listened to *Sapiens* before. Is that about the development of the human?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
modern man.
and in that book, it talks about how important to the very fabric of humanity dogs are, and and how they sort of, you know, all those little looks, and the sort of the kind of the all the little characteristics that dogs have are sort of quite finely tuned, you know, communication tools that we've both developed between us over the
Yeah,
centuries.
yeah.
It's beautiful,
Together.
isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
really is, and I think that they're so loyal and unconditionally affectionate and all those kinds of
yeah,
things. And
yeah,
um, you just can never understand what would lead somebody to be cruel to any animal, of course, but especially dogs. And we can focus on the subject of XL bullies in a little bit as well, because that gets weird.
oh yeah, I
But
kind of clocked that in the news a little bit. Yeah.
it's very weird, mate, what goes on with those. I mean, I think there's
What?
been a
Why have
couple.
they? Why have they been banned?
So my limited knowledge is that there have been a couple of cases where people have, you know, I think young kids have been like snatched and mauled, which is obviously brutal, and and it's the age old, oh, it's not the dogs, it's the owners, and this kind of stuff. I think that there's probably dogs that have got more of a tendency to be able to be aggressive, but it does come
It said
down to.
it
Hmm?
says here that they've been linked to 23 deaths.
Yeah, so
So
it does.
through few vicious dog attacks in the
Yeah,
last 3 years.
yeah, it's a serious problem, like
But it's
obviously.
not. Is it the dog or is it It's the owner, isn't it?
I don't know.
I
I
would.
don't know the answer to the question, and I wish I did. But what I do know is that I know a few people that have got XL bullies, and they're just beautiful. They're
Mm,
absolutely
mm,
beautiful. And these people that have got
mm,
them, you know, um,
yeah,
and I think it's true of any dog. Like I think if you've got a dog, it's the same with Alsatians, or if you take Bronte and Scout, so your wife's parents' boxers. If you didn't train those dogs, well then, and they're in a certain
Yeah, or
situation.
you trained them to be aggressive.
Yeah, exactly that.
And like I was going to say, Ginny's dad had an Alsatian, Tess. She, I've, she's been put down now.
Yeah.
Um, but people used to be, she was such a big proper German Shepherd,
Mm.
and just the nicest dog,
Yeah.
like in the world.
Mm.
The
Mm.
nicest dog in the world, the cutest, most loving and loyal, and the dog. If there was a dog to take on a walk with you, it was that dog. Like,
Yeah.
if you want in dream house like dog to sit on your heel and just be there, that was her.
Yeah.
A real companion. The only thing she did do, which was honking, was eat her own shit.
Oh God.
And but do you know what? That was because she had a pancreas disorder or something where she really struggled to get nutrients from her food. So she was actually just hungry all the time.
I think
She
I've heard a couple of reasons as to
Yeah,
why that is, and I think
I
it's
think it was a genetic disorder.
I think it can sometimes be what I heard was is that it can be to do with them wanting to kind of cover their tracks. You know what I mean? Because obviously when they were out in the wild, rather than leaving
Maybe,
scat around, then they would kind of do that to stop people being able to stop other animals being able to track them and hunt them down. Yeah,
maybe.
Ginny's,
I mean, with her, we were told it was because she basically had I think she had like a small pancreas or like or like some kind of malfunction going on there. So
yeah.
she, yeah, she just, no matter how much she ate, she was just always struggling to get. She had a good innings though. She lived a normal length of life for a
How
for
long?
a Alsatian.
How old was she when? Because it was like literally this year, wasn't it, or last
Yeah,
year
I
or
think so.
so?
I feel like she was what, 12 or something.
Right. Bless
So
her. Alsatians are so lovely. The only
yeah, I love them,
trouble with a German Shepherd is they got this notorious issue with their back legs, haven't they? And you've got to
mate.
be
They
very careful. And
Yeah,
I think it's difficult when a pet start. Well, this is going to sound very harsh, and I don't mean it to, but it can be very difficult when a pet turns into a bill, and you're left with a very tricky decision to make. Like I can't even imagine what life would be like, or when that
well,
time comes with Ronnie.
yeah, yeah,
So
it's
Ronnie,
tough,
Ronnie's
mate.
Ronnie's my dog, and it's really really tricky. And nobody knows this more than you. This is what you were talking about before, and it's a very current
Yeah,
situation
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
with
But
Ginny's
on the
horses.
positive note, first, as it is positive January now February, but this was kind of part of our positive vibes, was just the joy that a dog or a pet can bring, and for anybody that hasn't got a pet or a dog, it's literally been proven that dogs and pets help you to manage your stress, release happy hormones, make you feel good, make you feel loved. And
Yeah,
also, a really good point about having a pet is giving you a little bit of purpose,
totally. Yeah.
and it's just not about you. It's the same
Hmm.
when it's the same, but only kind of way more extreme when you have a kid,
Yeah.
you know?
Of
It's
course.
like you have this purpose of, and you end up just putting most of your shit to one side, just because you've got to make sure they're fed, watered, walked. This is both a animal and my son.
Yeah, 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 100%. And you're dead right. Like I've got a mate, Adam, who he was particularly troubled a few years ago, and he ended up getting a little staffy. And he will say, "Listen, she saved my life." Like having that
Yeah, yeah,
purpose,
yeah,
being able to, uh, you know, look after her, have a companion the whole time. I can remember, I can remember reading something about human happiness and you know what it took, and Sorry, it was more about loneliness. Sorry, this was years ago, and it was saying like, do humans need to have other humans, basically? And they were set, and
Yeah.
I think this study came out that said as long as they've got something like a dog, then in theory, there's no reason why other humans need other humans to stay happy and
Or or Wilson.
yeah.
Wilson.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, that fills the same gap, doesn't it? It does, having somebody or something just to kind of like, just to rabbit to. And I don't know about you. I definitely have, I wouldn't say full-blown conversations, but I have chats with Ronnie,
Oh,
definitely. And every time I leave the house, even though he can't understand me, I tell him that I won't be long or ask him how
yeah.
he's
He
doing.
probably can understand you, mate. He probably knows. He probably links you saying "I won't be long" to you going out, but you're coming back.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've got a thing, and he's here right now looking at me. We've got a thing where I say, I'll see you later on, because his name's Ronnie, and see you later on. And yeah, he definitely links those two things, bless him. But I got Ronnie. So I hadn't had my own dog since leaving home. So sort of 16, Cadbury, the chocolate Labrador, and then and had been dogless since then. And then I got with an old girlfriend of mine. I sort of inherited her dog, who was a puppy when I joined the family, and we were
Yeah,
together for a few years. And Harry, he was a cockapoo. He wouldn't have been my
yeah,
choice of
cockapoo,
dog.
wasn't he?
Yeah, brown cockapoo, and he wouldn't have been my choice of dog, but you can't help but fall in love with these things. And I'm sure this isn't the first. I won't be the first person to say this, that one of the most difficult things about that breakup was actually leaving the dog behind. You know what I mean? And they leave with, at the risk of sounding cheesy, full paw print vibes on your heart and your soul. They
Mm,
really, really do. And
mm,
and it's amazing, really, because they're just this little ball of
mm.
stuff that doesn't say anything or do anything.
But they just love you. They
Yeah,
just you don't get no shit off them.
no, exactly
That's
that.
why.
Yeah, yeah. And
Really?
they're such a mega companion. And
Yeah.
it was actually through COVID when I really wanted a collie. That's what I was going for. Um,
Mm,
and it was my sister, bless her, who said, because she's had a few dogs, uh, and she'd always rescued animals, and she said, "Well, you'd be much better off rescuing one." Um, and here's the details of a rescue centre up in Macclesfield. The rescue centre is called Windy Ways, and they're not like the Dogs Trust. They're just a very small outfit. Don't make a lot of money, do it for the love. I think Ronnie was maybe 120 quid or something like that. 120 quid for all that. And it was one of
well,
those,
you and every dog ownership really boomed during COVID, didn't it?
oh, I'm
Because
sure. Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know, I think there was probably a lot of people that were lonely, and also
Yeah,
a lot of people at home now that
yeah,
suddenly had an ability to properly look after a dog.
yeah. That's right. And you just yeah, exactly that. You're working from home now, life's changed, you've got
You're
more
like,
of a,
oh, I can have a dog, and it actually isn't going to be a burden at all.
and I
It's
think
only
also
positive.
And I think also working life flipped on its head. So it became much more of a common thing for dogs to go to the office with people and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And then people actually realized that dog ownership is a commitment, not on the same level as having a child, but of a similar vein. Anyway, so that was that, and yeah, and it was one of those love at first sight moments. I've got to say, I looked on Windy Ways, I saw his beautiful little face, and then it was within 5 days he was back at home with me, and I'll never forget picking him up, and he's a little bit misunderstood, I would say, you know. Um, because he's got a lot of energy. He's a crossbreed, so he's Staffordshire Terrier, he's Pit Bull, Bull Mastiff, Whippet. greyhound. So he's quite stacked, and he's got a staffy face. He's
Mm,
the one that's making the noise in the background. I'll pull him up in a
he
minute.
knows you're talking about him.
Yeah, he definitely does, 100%. Um, but but he's a very special part of my life, and it's weird because I often this sounds a little bit almost a bit macabre, but like sometimes, like I'll be in the kitchen at the back and I'll hear him run from the living room, and I can hear his little chain, his little thing dangling, and it's lovely, and I just know that there'll be some point where when he goes, I'd give anything just to hear that noise again. You know what I mean? Just something
Mate,
simple as that.
I mean, Sky is now 10,
Yeah.
maybe older. And I think she was 10 this year.
So what was the journey to getting Sky, and tell
Oh,
us?
mate, as with many things in my life, my dear wife,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
she, she, um, she, she literally said about 3 months before, "Oh, I really want to get these cats.
Yeah.
And if we get a cat, we don't have to get a dog." And I was like, look, we were young, only in like early 20s.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want the responsibility of pets right now. Um, and then she got the cats, Sachi and Diego.
Yeah.
Still got them,
Yeah.
although
Yeah. Yeah.
Diego does live with her mum because when we lived closer to them, he would not move to our new house. He has decided that he moved over to Ginny's mum's house, so he's
Yeah.
stopped. I saw him actually had a really nice cuddle with him today, like
Oh,
probably
no
one of
way.
the best cuddles I've had with him for ages. Yeah, yeah. And then so I was like, right, get the cats, beautiful cats. Both one's white tortoiseshell with tortoiseshell, one is full. Diego is full tortoiseshell. And
Full
then
stripey as
don't
well.
ask me where the name Sachi came from, but Diego, because of the tiger out of Ice Age, I called him that because he looked a bit like that.
Is
And
Sachi
then,
is in the Sachi gallery?
no idea, Ginny named her, don't know. But they're brother and sister. And
Yeah.
then they were okay. They were great. They were good. They just you just don't get a lot of love from them,
No.
you know?
But there used to
And
be. I always remember like post rave cuddles with Sachi and Diego back in the day, like at Jack's
maybe
cottage.
Diego was more cuddly. Sachi actually has become way more of an indoor cat and less of a killing machine.
Right.
Um, she still does kill rat like mice all the time, um, but yeah, she now will come and sit and have a cuddle with you, especially when you go on holiday and you come back. She goes wild. She's like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and then comes and gives you loads of cuddles. And then about 3 months later, she went, "I'm going to get this dog. I'm
Right.
getting this dog." And
Yeah.
I was like,
Decision made.
and then I was like, "I'm not. I don't." I said, "I'm not interested. Like you go and do it." And she was like, "Well, it's in Merseyside or somewhere." She was like, "I'll go on my own." And I was like, I was like, "I've got loads of work." I had an observation the next day, and at school, and so I was like, "Right, I'll come with you." And I had to obviously mark all my books because I hadn't marked them for ages.
Of course.
So I had loads of work to do, and so we went over. We picked it up. Little we called it, well, she's called Sky, little working cocker spaniel, part blue roan, so she's got like a bluey kind of silver black coat, and she's got one blue eye and one brown eye like David Bowie,
Yeah.
and she's got a kink in her tail. We used to call her noodle. We still do call her noodle sometimes. Got
Yeah.
loads of names for her, as you do with these pets.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's so cute. She's so, mate, so cute, and
Yeah. She's lovely.
immediate love. Funny things she did though when she was a puppy was, um, she used to dig the kitchen wall out. You'd wake up in the morning and she dug like a meter of plaster off the wall.
Oh God.
I know. And then the other really horrific thing when we were at our old cottage she did was, I remember when I think I was really ill, and she did a poo, like the squits in the corner. And it was like, oh, and then it was like middle of winter. And we had to open all the doors, and it was just the most
Was it on the
savage.
stone floor or on a carpet?
It was on the stone floor.
Thank
Yeah,
God for that.
yeah, it was so savage. But apart from that, I wholeheartedly love my dog,
Yeah, of
and
course.
for she was a lot of work. She wouldn't always come back on the lead. It took I had no experience of dog ownership as well, so I kind of assumed that Ginny would kind of do a lot of the training. But Ginny's always had dogs, but it's in her family, and her mum has always kind of been the primary carer. So I think we both found the training side of things quite difficult, and it wasn't until it wasn't it wasn't COVID, but COVID really helped. But it was pre-COVID. I just got fed up of Sky like pulling on the lead and like not being able to get on that, control it. So then I went down the book, read a load of books. There's loads of different methods out there for like training your dog, and
Yeah,
some of them are like super like happy enforcement. Other ones are a bit more like the chanting command or shouting commands at them, and but I just found once you kind of find what they really want, and Sky is quite food driven, which is
which is good. Yeah,
perfect.
makes it easier.
um Really, and just consistency. And
Mm,
yeah, I did a few good years of training with her, and now she's just a really good dog. Like doesn't pull on the lead, comes back whenever you call her. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not into doing tricks or anything, but she does dog basics 101 perfect now.
Well,
And
you put me onto that book, which was Zach George. That's what I was looking for. Then
yeah,
it's George's Dog Training Revolution.
yeah, yeah, his book was good. And I think the main takeaway that I would say to anybody about training a dog is just consist like every walk you have to not let them pull
Yeah,
and use those treats, and it's just consistency, like we always say, Johnny.
yeah,
Consistency.
yeah. Consistency is
Yeah,
key.
I love her. I love my
Yeah,
dog. I shave a mohawk into her now. I'll
I love
try and
it.
remember to put a picture in. We'll put some pictures in of our dogs. Yeah, I shave her mo. She's got a big long coat, goes all bare. We think there's some Irish Spaniel in there, so she goes really like she doesn't have like a long dangly coat like a lot of Spaniels. It just goes like poof.
Yeah,
And yeah, I usually we clip her down, so I clip like various haircuts into her just for
yeah.
fun.
Insert
Um,
Mohawk picture here.
now. And yeah, she's a great dog. She's a great companion. I love giving her a cuddle. She's been great with little man. He taunts her all the time, like not badly, but he'll just like drive his little various vehicle trolleys and things in, like tries to drive them into her, and it's like leave her alone. He's obsessed with her,
Yeah,
and he's obsessed with cuddling her, and she does that like side growl where she's like, "Grr,"
yeah, 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 yeah,
and you can hear that go, and you're like, "Oh, please don't bite him." And
yeah.
I know
She
she
wouldn't.
wouldn't, but
Of
she
course
would
not.
if you like. The only time she's ever nipped me is if you like go anywhere near her rear quarter.
Right.
So she
Yeah,
doesn't like.
I think I've had something like that with Sky. Do you remember?
Yeah, I
Was she
think you have.
on the sofa and she went for me?
Yeah,
And I just
yeah.
leant next to her
You
bum.
got a bit handsy. I think you got a bit handsy, mate, with her. And
The great thing is, so Sky is a lovely dog, and her and I have got a great relationship and always have. And she does that lovely thing where, um, when you walk in, because she's quite small and she runs over to you and she sort of jumps up against your leg, but she only goes up to your knee and just hugs your leg. Just
yeah,
stands
she
there and
does hug
hugs
your
your leg.
leg.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful. It's really,
yeah.
really nice.
Everybody thinks that she loves them.
Yeah,
She
yeah, of
shows
course.
that much love, and it's like you're not special. She's
Yeah, yeah,
just a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
cuddle.
yeah.
She's just a cuddle fiend.
she is
And
the original cuddle fiend. Yeah.
there's another positive for having an animal beyond just the kind of relationship you build and the friendship and the affection they show, but is especially with dogs is like encouraging you to get out walking and take them out, and that in itself is really good for your head.
Yeah. It 100% is. And I would say that if there's anybody listening to this who's thinking about getting a dog, then that's a serious consideration because it's pretty like I get a bit frustrated actually when I see dogs that are overweight and you can tell
Oh,
that
I hate
and they're not.
hate
It's
overweight
just like
dogs.
just look after your dog. It's not the dog's
Yeah,
fault, of course, and you take on a responsibility when you get a dog, and I think that it's very important to take that
yeah,
seriously. Um, when it comes to training, like Ronnie and I have done some training. There's part of me that I don't need him to be remote control dog, actually, and I don't want him to be like that. It's cool, and I've got no interest in him, interest in teaching him tricks. And the thing with
no,
Ronnie, um, what me and him have got is an understanding. So, like for example, if we go out in the Peak District, which we do a lot, and he's off the lead, he will have free reign to go wherever he wants to go. And I know that he will always be in my perimeter. Like I know,
yeah, yeah. Skies like that, mate.
yeah,
Skies like
exactly
that.
that. Yeah.
I don't understand why people get scared about letting their dogs off
No, I know.
and not
As long as
going
they're not
through the
causing a
pain
problem.
barrier.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And as long as they're not causing a problem, like like we sort of loosely know somebody whose dog has been involved in some pretty sticky situations with livestock, and that's not good. Um,
No. Yeah,
not
but
at
that's
all.
just about letting them off in the right places,
Of course
mate.
it is. Yeah,
There's always somewhere where there's not livestock.
and I think bringing it back to what you said about the things that dogs teach you, I think there's that and this air of this kind of like thing around responsibility, and at the risk of sounding sort of overly romantic, I've got to be honest with you, and I've thought this to myself on a few occasions, is that Ronnie's actually taught me a lot about love actually, and I won't go into the complexities of what I mean by that, but he really has taught me a lot about love. um and yeah, they're just such a my only thing now is that I just wish I could get more, but obviously the dog boarding thing scratches that itch. And people
Yeah.
always say, what would you do if you won the lottery? And I say without hesitation, move to Utah, open a dog sanctuary.
Mm,
That's all I
mm,
need. That's all I want. Uh,
mm.
ride every day, have a host of dogs. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, but the other thing that I would say about adopting dogs is like, I mean, I had a couple of them, particularly before Christmas, because the whole laws with XL bullies was kicking off around that time because there was a deadline. And it was like, I think it was the 23rd of December. And if they weren't adopted by this
Registered or
date,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was the inevitable. And there was one post in particular, which was an 8-month-year-old bully, beautiful, beautiful patch face, a face a bit like Ronnie's. That and this dog was doubling
Oh,
confidence.
what you were nearly.
I, I wouldn't have done it, but it was like I had to
Mm,
like stop. I had to unfollow these things that I was
I
following
know.
because you
Yeah.
just you know.
They are cute, aren't they?
And it was an 8 month
Puppies.
year old double incontinent XL
Oh,
bully, and they word it in such a way which is like, oh, and this sweet boy, and if he doesn't find his owner by the 23rd, then he'll be exterminated,
but
and you're just like,
yeah.
uh, but you
No.
can't save everyone,
No.
and yeah,
We've had a couple of moments where what you know, oh, should we get another one? My
yeah.
sister had
Where are you
a
at with
litter,
that?
and we were
Because
like, ooh,
yeah, what do you think about that? Because Ginny's come from a family where there's kind of like three, four, five dogs at any one time.
Usually two or three. They usually have two or three on like a constant. So as they always have like a young, middle, and an older dog kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. We have thought about another one. I think one dog. The beauty of one dog is just, especially like a spaniel-sized dog. You like Ronnie's not too big either. They can travel quite comfortably in like a footwell or something like that. I know my sister that's got two spaniels. Like with now they've got a kid. That logistically is actually a quite a lot of work. If you're going away and you've got to have two dogs in the boot, maybe it's like. Whereas when we went away with Sky travelled down in the footwell. Ginny sat either in the front or Sky sat on the front seat with her seatbelt on, actually. Um, and then obviously in the back were Ginny and Little Man.
mm,
So, and then in the boots full of your stuff. So logistically, I think when you go beyond one dog, I think that actually can become a bit of a challenge.
yeah. I agree.
But then if you want if you want that lifestyle, that's
Yeah,
fine.
if you set up for it,
Yeah.
if your circumstances are, and like everything, it's about just
Yeah.
being responsible, isn't it? And I think that's
I,
why I've not gone for two.
no.
It just wouldn't quite fit at this point. But there will be a point where it's the right thing to do. Um, I mean, so Ronnie's got, I think he's kind of 40% Staffordshire Terrier, and this is another thing, which is that's a bloody misunderstood dog breed. I mean, so
Mm,
Staffordshire Terriers are the only dogs that whatever governing body it is that makes these comments says that it's the only dog that's really safe around newborn babies is a Staffordshire Terrier. But yet they have this reputation.
mm.
Um, and I think it's
It's
just the
because of their
breed.
bite strength.
Well, they've got that lockjaw thing, haven't they? Yeah.
Mm.
And
And their bite is like super strong,
yeah, and Ronnie's
but
face is basically like 80% mouth as well, because he's got
yeah,
that.
you,
Thing. Uh, but yeah, he's a beautiful thing. Um, I guess another point to make is um, so this dog boarding thing that I do, the way that came around was um, I went to Norway for a hike in May last year. And I think I've already told this story in another podcast, but also I'll make it short. But I ended up giving Ronnie because I couldn't. I left it till the last minute to board him in a kennels, and he ended up going to one which was just horrendous. And I think that's another
mm,
a little quick tip is just look after your dog and search for somewhere that's going to look after him if you end up going away. And
yeah,
I promise you that can really, ruin the holiday, knowing that he was in this shit
mm,
of a dog kennels. And he came out with kennel cough and was hanging out of his hoop for a couple of weeks
yeah,
afterwards. And
yeah.
um,
Or where possible. Obviously, this Canada trip we can't take Sky, but most of in fact, all of our summer holidays, or most of them, where we've driven to France, we've obviously taken Sky with us, and I
yeah,
love having her with us.
yeah,
Like I, I'm happy to pay the extra everywhere to bring her, and I've got loads of great memories of us swimming on the beach. She loves swimming in the water. Like she gets so much attention when we're at the beach because she just swims for hours.
I'd love to take Ronnie on holiday, and I promise that I promised myself after that Norway trip that I was going to do that. He can't come on the Transylvania hike because it's in Romania, but the next time that I go somewhere in driving distance, he's 100% coming, and I want to do
Yeah,
that.
you should,
I
mate.
want to take him on holiday. Yeah,
You
it'd be
should do like a
stoked.
little camping trip to France.
Yeah,
Take
that'd
him
be
to the
wicked,
Alps
wouldn't
for
it?
walking or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And I think a nice way to round this off might be to actually show. I don't know if Sky's in your arena, but Ronnie, come here.
Sky.
Come here.
Let me go see if I can track her down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's this, Ronnie? Do you want to say hello? What? There we go. What's going on here? What are you doing? What's this? What? What? Here she is, mohawked creature. What's going on, Ron? Hey, what's going on?
Oh, look at the dog.
Sky. Bless her. So here are our beautiful companions. And I feel like that might be a nice place because he's desperate to go out for a walk. A nice place to round this one off, which has been one of our most heartwarming poddies.
Yeah, it has. It's been nice.
It's nice to chat about
Nice.
them, isn't it?
Yeah, look, mate, love dogs.
Yeah.
I think I am gonna have to go because in getting Sky, I kicked a chair and
There
little
you
man's
go.
work. So,
On that
signing out
note,
from me. Thanks
yeah.
for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.
This is the Lost Man podcast, where we embrace the challenges and triumphs of being a modern man in the middle years. Join us as we explore the rugged path of growing older, wiser and bolder in a world that's constantly changing. I'm your host John.
And I'm Matt.
And together we'll navigate this uncharted territory with grit, humour and a whole lot of heart.